right. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Idiot's Guide to Horror. Oh, that was too loud.
Counteracting the toxic culture surrounding horror fandom and breaking down your favorite horror movies. With you, as always, your host, Sarah Popovich.
And Christopher Juno Haberman. So everybody turn off the lights, grab your spelunking gear and your birthday cake. Someone's ready to dissect The Descent.
Yeah, directed in 2005 by Neil Marshall. This movie was a big fucking deal when it came out.
It was a sequel to Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Neil went through some shit, and he wrote this movie, and then probably the biggest plot twist of the century is that this movie was written by a man.
Would you have ever guessed?
There are parts of it where, I totally could have guessed. I think when I was younger, I was like, wow. But like rewatching it now as a woman in her 30s, I'm like, you think you understand women, don't you? Mm-hmm. But it came in the wave of the other splatter movies. It's like British movies normally aren't this hardcore.
Mm-hmm. This one's great.
It's pretty fucking hardcore, man. Like it's pretty metal. So you can watch this on Peacock right now, or you can probably find a DVD somewhere.
I have it on DVD. Did you know that? Because I didn't until after I recommended it.
Did you watch it on DVD or did you watch it on Peacock?
Peacock. Do you think I'm going to walk over there and put a DVD in? No, I'm going to watch the ads.
No, I didn't. This is why I wanted to ask. I was just, I thought maybe just, you got old school with it.
Mm-hmm. No. Here's what I learned. I watched it on Peacock, and you cannot watch Peacock on an external monitor on your laptop. It will not let you.
Why?
I don't know. I had to watch it on my iPad, which is not cheating? Very big.
Like, what is it doing?
I don't know. It's a free service.
I know. That's really weird.
It charges no money.
It's so dumb. All right. So back in the box description. I'll do my best here because I actually did rent this in probably like 2006. So it's 2005. What? Fuck, I already have lost the thread here. It's 2005. You just got done having an argument with your mother because she won't buy you Tripp pants from Hot Topic.
Mm-hmm.
You're feeling moody in your normal Rue 21 jeans. You're just like everybody else in this damn town. And you're also in a fight with your best friend because she got the Tripp pants. And so you're feeling a little angsty. And so you walk down to your local video store and you're looking for something that's just as pissed off as you are. And there's a movie called The Descent where there's a bunch of women naked and forming a skull with light coming through it. And you're like, that seems like my jam. That seems like where I'm at right now. And you turn it around and it says, after a tragic accident, 6 friends reunite for a caving expedition. Their adventure soon goes horribly wrong when a collapse traps them deep underground and they find themselves pursued by bloodthirsty creatures. As their friendships deteriorate, they find themselves in a desperate struggle to survive the creatures and each other. Do you want to give a spoiler warning?
That was the best back of the box I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Bar none. Roseanne, bar none. Spoiler warning. We're going to talk about this movie in depth, up to and including the ending. So if you haven't seen it now, hey, go pause this. Go head on over to Peacock and give it a watch.
It's worth it.
And then come back. And then come back.
It's so short. It's really short. I didn't realize how short it was until I rewatched it yesterday. And I was like, oh man, it's almost over. I feel like it just started. So I guess like I didn't expect there to be this many movie facts, but I'm excited. Like I'm excited that there are.
I think I got this from mentalfloss.com. That is
Okay.
mentalfloss.com.
Please sponsor us, mentalfloss.com.
Unless
So
who knows?
the mysterious creatures that stalk the group of spelunkers in the descent aren't supernatural or extraterrestrial in origin. Writer-director Neil Marshall calls them crawlers, cave people who have diverged from the rest of us at some point in the evolutionary chain. The actors playing the crawlers stayed away from the main cast during production to ratchet up the anxiety in the performances, which makes sense. The actresses didn't see the crawlers in their final form till it was time to shoot their first scenes together. The creatures are referred to as crawlers in the film's closing credits, and they go over that in the movie. Like they say, like, you know, they're probably like evolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam is smart.
They're still terrifying, though.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I didn't put in here was that they wanted to make them look like Nosferatus.
They kind of do.
Yeah, but they were like, I don't know why they didn't. But movie fact number B, the director is a huge fan of filmmakers like Ridley Scott and John Carpenter. Well, duh, who isn't?
I was gonna say.
I mean,
no.
Marshall's spoken about the influence of a handful of films on the look and feel of The Descent. There's a claustrophobic confinement of Alien, the slow turn towards madness of The Shining, and the adventure gone wrong of Deliverance. There's a bit of The Thing in play as well, plus the overall H.P. Lovecraft themes of a descent into madness.
I mean, it couldn't be more obvious to me that this was a cross of Ridley Scott and John Carpenter. Definitely didn't feel much of The Shining in there.
None of The Shining. I felt none of The Shining.
I felt no Shining. So there is only one man, Paul, Sarah's husband, in the film, aside from the non-speaking extras in the hospital scene. It's the way it should be, folks.
It doesn't pass the reverse Bechdel test. That's
fine. We're okay over here.
The poster for the U.S. release is based on the Salvador Dali Women Forming a Skull, which you might have mentioned in your back of the box.
I didn't mention that it was Salvador Dali. I just mentioned that it was it aligned with the angst of not having Tripp pants at your disposal, based on a true story.
I had a plethora of friends.
I was not allowed. They were very expensive. The original UK version of the film has a different ending. Test audiences in America were too bummed out by it, so they edited it. Marshall likened it to the ending of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre ending and said in an Entertainment Weekly review, "Just because she gets away, does that make it a happy ending?"
Does it, folks? I cut out, because they did have what the ending was, so I cut it out so that we wouldn't spoil too much.
Right.
When Marshall asked about there being a third movie in the series, he said The Descent was never intended to have a sequel. I don't think the story warrants a sequel, but there is a sequel, so make of that what you will.
Yeah, I didn't. When I finished watching it, it was like, "Do you want to watch The Descent 2 now?" And I was like, I do not.
It's actually not that bad.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did he make it?
No, the producer directed the sequel.
No,
I know, and it has some people you don't think are going to be in it, and they're in it.
Yeah, one of them was like the thumbnail.
Oh, yeah. Was it?
Yeah, she was the thumbnail for the movie, and I was like, but how? So director Neil Marshall initially wanted to pass on the project, having just done another horror movie with dog soldiers. He later reconsidered since both movies were nothing alike, and he decided to cast an all-female group of protagonists in contrast to the normally male-dominated horror genre. He consulted with his female friends to avoid cliches and define their personalities, and chose actresses with a wide array of accents to give the film a more cosmopolitan feel. Yeah, I would say, like, especially after seeing Men yesterday, there is this part of me that's like, can men please stop making movies about how hard it is to be a woman? Because it just feels like it's like, a frowny face emoji, and it's like, seems tough.
Mm-hmm.
And this must be why. But this one was not bad, and we're gonna get into it now. So picture it, 2005, raging rapids.
Okay.
I think it's four women, right? I don't quite remember how many women are in that boat. There's a few.
3.
Three
There's
women.
Juno, Sarah, and the third one. If it's not
Beth.
Juno or Sarah, I don't remember their name.
Beth is important. Beth is very important. Beth is a good
Did you
friend, a
know
good person.
that these were not stunt doubles? This was Juno, Sarah, and Beth in real life, whitewater rafting.
I want to do that, but also I'm terrified to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to. It looks like fun, but I also don't want to die.
It'll get wet. I don't want to get wet.
So they're whitewater rafting, and they go through their raft trip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you outdoorsy people call it. I just started hiking and doing things outside, so take me to REI and tell me all the things. But afterwards, Sarah and her husband Paul and her young daughter Jessica are driving home, and she distracts Paul because he seems distant. And
Yeah, because he's doing something terrible
right
behind her back.
Right.
Can we talk about the cinematography in this scene real quick?
Yes.
Okay. Fellas, ladies, and all the people who don't give a fuck. That's a Limp Bizkit lyric, if you didn't know.
I'm just waving my arms so we're dancing now.
This scene is so good. Like, the way it starts, like, something terrible is going to happen, and you just have to sit there and wait for it to happen. It's like no, I can't spoil another movie.
I appreciate the restraint. Like, I appreciate the restraint here because there's no restraint in any other way later. But he made a decision here to not traumatize too early. We know what happened. So they get into a car accident, and the car that they collide with it's hauling metal poles for some reason. It's like a station wagon that just has a bunch of metal poles on the top, and the metal poles go through the windshield and kill Sarah's husband and child. But we don't see exactly what's going on. We just kind of know. And she wakes up in the hospital, and it's heartbreaking as she doesn't know. She's calling out for her daughter, and she does the whole, this drives me crazy in movies. This is such a trope. When you're attached to all that shit, that's all attached to monitors and alarms. So if you're ripping off monitors and IVs and stuff like that, doctors are going to come a running. You're not just going to be able to do that and then just wander along the hallways by yourself. But that's exactly what she does, and it's not her fault. She's a character in a horror film. But
and there's nobody in that hospital. But we do find out that she is hallucinating.
She's hallucinating.
Which happens. Yeah, she's hallucinating the lights turning off while she's running down the hallway. She's hallucinating the daughter with blowing out of birthday candles.
Okay, but she's hallucinating the hospital being empty though.
Yeah, it's alluded to a few more times, that she is hallucinating frequently in this movie, especially with all the daughter blowing out birthday candles that keep coming back over and over again.
Right. I thought that it was just the weird early 2000s hospital scene trope of the doctors have all gone out to smoke, and
I think that it's meant to be. I think it's meant to be in her head that there's nobody there. Because then she does, while she's running down the hallway, the lights are turning off behind her, and she does run into one of the girls. Holly?
Beth.
Because
Holly's new.
Oh, Holly's yeah. I just looked at the first name on my thing.
Yeah.
But we do see in the hospital, Juno is there, she's crying, and then she just immediately walks out without saying anything to Sarah and leaves the country for a year.
Right. And so 1 year later, Sarah and Beth are on their way to meet up with Juno to go on a spelunking trip. And they've traveled to North Carolina for this.
Rings out. Take your shirt off, twist it around your head, spin like a helicopter. We're getting the references out today.
God damn it! Now it's gonna be stuck in my head. Who am I, Petey Pop, motherfucker? I didn't realize that this took place in America.
It was filmed in England. It was just the set was made to look like America, with the new North Carolina license plate.
But it makes total sense, and like also plays into another trope, which is like, you know, the backwoods people of the Appalachians are scary. So they're in the Appalachian Mountains. They're in the Appalachian Mountains. They are meeting up with Juno, and Beth is kind of like, I mean, Juno kind of sucks, right? And Sarah's like, nah, Juno's cool. And Beth is like, Juno kind of sucks, right? Like, she's like, you know, Beth is like trying to be a good friend and just like laying breadcrumbs throughout the entire movie. But she's just like, oh, it just always has to be about what she wants, right? So they get there.
And Holly's smoking inside.
Holly is smoking inside. So there's Sarah, Juno, and Beth, which is the original adventurous outdoorsy gang. And then there's other friends, Sam and Rebecca, and then Holly is Juno's new friend. So they all spend a night doing introductory stuff, you know, like, I'm Sporty Spice, you know, like just.
Oh yeah, I'm Scary Spice, and nobody's taking her from me.
Yes. They're all like, you know, just showcasing the different levels of their personalities. They get drunk, and then that night Sarah has a bad dream, and then the next day they wake up and they make their way to the top of the mountain.
Downtown. Damn it, I was too close.
They make their way to the top of the mountain, and then they go
find a dead deer.
They find a dead deer that looks like it's been like mauled severely, and they're like, what did this? Maybe a bear? I don't know. Which still makes sense to me because, you know, why would the crawlers come out of the cave to maul a deer?
Yeah, because that's where they feed.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But they're like cave people. They can't seem to really see when it's. Anyway, so meanwhile.
They spelunk.
Yeah, Juno gives Sarah like a half-assed apology for not being there for her after her husband and kid died. And is this when she says the weird thing about like we all lost something in that accident, or is that later?
I don't remember. I know that I forget. My notes are shit.
I didn't even take any. You're fine.
Okay. So maybe she says that. Maybe she doesn't right now. But we see a bloody handprint or something on the rocks.
Right.
There's a jump scare with bats. They have to go down this pipe. I'm already feeling it. Like I was texting Kara while I was watching this because I was crawling out of my skin watching this.
And this is just like, listen, like I'm a little adventurous. I'm learning to be outdoorsy. But if anybody ever invites me spelunking, like you're the wrong kind of friend. I don't want to. Why would I ever want to explore a cave for the exact reasons, aside from the crawlers, for the exact reasons that happened in this movie? I don't want to be somewhere where the air can just go away and things can just fall in and then I'm trapped inside forever.
This movie could have had no monsters at all, and it would have been terrifying.
Right. I felt like it was more terrifying before the monsters showed up, to be honest, like because just this concept of like, you know, somebody makes wrong. So basically what happens, just to like get to the point, is that somebody makes one wrong move and the cave collapses, like the entrance that they came in collapses in on itself. And it's important to note that Juno, who is the worst, Beth is right, she kind of sucks. Juno claimed that she had already mapped out this path, and she did not.
Because after the cave collapses, Rebecca or Beth or Sam says, "Don't worry, like we called in a flight plan, so if we don't get back to them within this much hours, they will come to us." And Rebecca says, I'm just using the word Rebecca as a catch-all for any of these girls. Rebecca says to Rebecca that it only would have worked if we would have been at the right cave, which we're not, because Juno brought us to the wrong cave on purpose.
Yeah.
And then Juno's like, I wanted us to name it. Maybe we could have named it Sarah.
Right, yeah, because so now they have to try and find a different exit. And in order to do that, they have to go over this like insanely deep passage, which requires for them to create a rope line across these two like ledges.
Crevasse.
But yeah, Juno is like, she's like bitching because like, you know, she didn't want to do the fully explored cave system. She wanted them to do something different. She wanted them to be the first. And then, you know, meanwhile, what's her butt? I can't remember which one it is that is brave enough to do the whole thing where she's taking the carabiners and creating the rope line, which is like a kind of upper body strength that like.
That is Rebecca.
Okay, that is actually Rebecca. That's she's going across and like taking the carabiners and like, you know, planting the rope line so that everybody else can just like, you know, crawl across. And when it's Sarah's turn, she's like giving Juno some sass, and Juno's like, this was about us. I wanted us to name this cave together. This was supposed to be our reconnecting. And she's just the fucking worst. She's awful. So they
God.
They get across.
Yeah, mostly,
yeah.
Yeah. Rebecca gets the worst rope burn I've ever seen on anybody.
Right, because Juno, you know, even though she wanted to make a dangerous, difficult expedition, she doesn't have the fucking skills. And so when she's going across, they have to hold, you know, they have to grab the rope suddenly because she lets herself go and almost falls down.
Actually, the reason she falls is because when Rebecca's going across the first time and putting up the rope line, they didn't have enough of those thingies to clip into the ceiling. So she uses one of the ones from 100 years ago that was already in the system.
Right, she used the old carabiner equipment.
And that one breaks loose while Juno's crawling across it.
Oh, right, okay. Well, she's
not
still
that I want to give
anyway.
any props to Juno. I'm just.
So they get across, and then, you know, they find a cave painting that shows that there's like two different caves, and that there's, you know, so that means that there's an exit on the other side, and that they didn't close off.
I don't know how they got that from that.
Well, if there's a cave system, like, so if there's, you know, if they went in one cave, then underground there's going to be another way out through the other cave. So they start, you know, like Juno takes Holly's lighter and is like, you know, like trying to find where there's any kind of breeze or air coming through. And then as soon as she finds some, Holly thinks she sees sunlight and runs ahead, and then gets stuck in a hole Winnie the Pooh style, and then falls down it and breaks her leg.
Right off.
Pretty much, yeah. And then they're like, let's reset it, which is, it's not going to happen. But they're all helping Holly. Sarah wanders off, and she sees one of the creatures just sort of like hunched over and like drinking out of a pool of water. And she's like, I saw someone, and everybody's like,
no, you didn't.
No, you didn't. That's dumb.
Bitch,
Like
please.
you're hallucinating again. And this might be when Juno says something about like, we all lost something in that crash. And it's like, bitch.
Did we? Did we, Juno?
So they get Holly's bone reset, which is the most unrealistic thing in this movie. I'm sorry. That's just not how human bodies work.
Well, it could have fooled me.
But so they go, they forge ahead and they find just like they're in the dark, and then they use like a night vision camera, and they find just like animal bones everywhere. And they don't know what's up with that, but like they get attacked.
Yeah, because whenever we had another jump scare, we see a creature full on with the infrared night vision.
Yeah, with the night
camera.
vision, which is like the first time we really see the creatures, and it's they're oily.
They're oily. See this right here? This is what they look like.
Oh, stop it.
It's 100 degrees in here, guys.
No, they look like they're covered in like petroleum jelly. And you do not look like you're covered in petroleum jelly right now, Chris.
And they rip out Holly's neck.
They do rip out Holly's neck. So
we don't have to carry her around anymore.
Yeah, she's dead weight now. Like we're done with Holly. R.I.P. Holly. We knew she wasn't long for this world when she was like, I'm the new one.
Yeah. Yeah. No offense. I didn't like her haircut.
Well, that was in the early 2000s.
I know.
I used to go to the salon and just hand them a picture of Mandy Moore and How to Deal and say, this, please. So that was a thing. What Holly had going on top of her head, I was like, oh, damn. Uh-oh.
They were popular, though, whenever I was in high school.
Yes. So Juno, first, she's still trying to defend Holly's lifeless corpse, and so she kills a crawler with her pickaxe. But then, because she's on the defense, Beth comes running up, and Holly just pickaxes her in the throat, right through the throat. Beth collapses, but before she goes down, like she takes Juno's, like she's like grasping onto Juno, and she takes her pendant with her, and she's like, please don't go, and Juno's like, peace, and leaves.
This was the second. Okay, if the leg setting scene was unrealistic, this scene was also unrealistic to me. She got stabbed through the whole neck. How's she speaking?
There's another thing that happens shortly here, because this is like, it all descends into chaos really fast, and this movie's almost over at this point. But Sarah had passed out at one point, and she wakes up and she finds herself back in the like the den of like human and animal bones. And she looks over and she sees that Holly's body is being just devoured by the creatures. And Juno finds more cave markings in the meantime, and she finds a specific path. It's like a map. And she finds Sam and Rebecca, and she's like, Sam, what are we up against here? What are we fighting? And Sam's like, okay, it seems like the crawlers are blind, and like they are finding, like they're hunting sonically. And Juno's like, okay, so like we need to get away from these fuckers. Like I found a way through, but I'm not leaving without Sarah. So Sarah then finds
this
Beth.
part made me cry.
Yeah, this is rough. So when Beth is like, fuck this bitch. And she's like, that One Republic song, like Secrets, I'm gonna give, like she just, she's just like laying everything out on the table. And she's like, okay, so Juno killed me and then left me here. Not only did Juno kill me and left me here, but here's this pendant. It was given to her by Paul. And then she croaks. So then there's
croak. Sarah has to beat her to death with a rock.
I know, but it's funnier if you if she like reveals the secrets and then she's like, anyway. But
Stacey, can you get some notes in on the script? Can we have Beth just croak after she reveals that Paul was cheating on Sarah with Juno? Thank you.
Right. So there's this big reveal that Paul and Juno had an affair, and they were having an affair when he was killed in the car accident. And then
because as soon as Juno gets out of the boat, they all get out of the boat, and he goes right to Juno, takes her helmet off for her.
Right.
You know?
But Beth at this point is like, okay, now that I have, explosively blown up this friendship, it's time for me to die. Can you please kill me? And Sarah's like, I don't want to, but okay. And so she grabs a rock and like bashes her head in, which is done far enough away. It's like the most merciful on-camera death, I think, other than the accident. But then when she's trying to find her way out, and she just gets attacked by like a bunch of the creatures. And she kind of fends herself, she kind of fends for herself. She gets like all of them away from her. But then like one of the most iconic shots of the movie is that she like falls into like a just giant puddle, like almost like a pond that is just blood. And she emerges just absolutely soaked in blood.
She's now a killing machine.
Yes. So Juno, Sam, and
now
Rebecca,
the rest of us are gonna die.
Yeah. Juno, Sam, and Rebecca are also getting attacked by a bunch of crawlers. And they get to like another crevasse, and Sam tries to like get across it. And the crawler is now, we see that they are Spider-Men, and the crawler is scaling the ceiling. And this is when you said like, I call bullshit on like Beth like extensively talking after having her throat pierced. So Sam gets her throat slit while she's upside down by a crawler, and then just continues to fight him instead of bleeding out.
And then as soon as Sam kills that crawler, that's when she just falls over dead. Like,
yeah.
Her raison d'etre was to just kill that one crawler.
Right. So Rebecca then gets, like dragged into like a tunnel kind of thing, like a narrow tunnel, and is just getting eaten alive. And I'm sorry, but Juno can do something here.
She was just standing there.
She's just standing there watching, right? So Juno instead chooses to just abscond. And she finally finds Sarah, and Sarah's like, where is everybody? And then she's like, they're all dead. And Sarah's like, what about Beth? And Juno's like, she died. I saw it. She was attacked. And Sarah's like, that's enough of that. And Sarah confronts Juno and like showing her like, like revealing the pendant and being like, who's this a gift from, bitch?
Because on the back of it, it says Paul's famous quote, love each day. Because it was also written on the back of the picture of them in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And when we saw it, they're like, oh, Sarah said, oh, that's a quote from Paul. Bitch, love each day is not a quote from Paul. It's like a quote from
Paul didn't come up
Marshall.
with that.
Yeah. Hallmark came up with that, bitch.
If you go into any country kitchen, you're going to see that, yeah. Or like any bathroom.
Yeah. That's just like Home Goods. It's on everything.
So
However,
Sarah,
so she
Sarah,
shows him, and then she's like, "Hey, bitch!" Takes her pickaxe and hits her through the leg,
yeah,
wounding her.
yeah,
Not fatally, apparently.
but just enough to fuck her over.
Mm-hmm.
Because she just leaves her there to die as a bunch of creatures are, showing up. And Sarah is escaping at the same. She is also absconding.
Mm-hmm. We're all
Juno,
absconding.
yeah, Juno's screaming, and Sarah falls down a hole and passes out. She gets, she hits her head and gets knocked unconscious. And
The
then when
light changes.
yeah,
Did you
the
see
light
that?
changes. Yes. When she wakes up, she she climbs up a hill of bones, just like that
Mhm.
Alice in Chains song, and um, she gets to her car and she speeds out of the woods. She's like bawling her eyes out, and then she pukes out the window. And then when she sits up, there's Juno is sitting next to her, like covered in blood, and
Like the
it's like a
ghost of Juno.
It's not the real Juno. It's just like a hallucination of a dead Juno covered in
Mm-hmm.
blood. And she screams, and we zoom in on her eyes, and that's the theatrical ending of The Descent.
However, what happens after that, because the UK ending goes a little bit after. So after she throws up at the window and we see dead ghost Juno in the car, we see her wake up from her hallucination in the cave again. There was no light from outside, but we do hear Jessica whispering, "Mommy." We see the birthday candles in Jessica, which we've seen like every 15 minutes for the last 45 minutes. And then it shifts, so then when the camera pulls back, it's no longer Jessica, it's just her torch. And the camera pulls out, and the crawlers are still closing in on her with their clicking and their scratching and whatever they do. And then that's the end of the extended version, original cut.
Yeah. I do think that one's better.
Me too.
Because what am I supposed to feel bad for Juno? She got everyone killed.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad for Juno.
I don't feel bad. No, I feel bad for everybody except Juno. Maybe Holly, because Holly kind of brought that upon herself.
Yeah, what was Holly? No, Holly didn't bring that upon herself. Holly's just an unfortunate side character in a horror film from 2005. She's literal cannon fodder.
She ran ahead of the group and then fell down a hole and broke her leg right clean off.
She was scared. She was cannon fodder. I'm telling you, like she was written to die. And I feel like there's a certain amount of self-awareness that the character has when they're like written in order to die, which is good. They should know. So now before we tell you what we think about it, we're gonna tell you what other people on Letterboxd think about it. So this is Letterboxd Beat Street. Chris, you chose 2 reviews this week. Why don't you go first?
All right. My first review is a 3-star review from Niall03, who says, "Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss," which is funny.
Fact. Yeah.
And then my second review is from another Rebecca. What are the odds? Rebecca Dearden, who gave it 4 stars and says, "Why does nobody talk about this? It should be a classic. I mean, you'd think the gays would swarm for these blood-soaked badass fingers that could crush your skull women."
Yeah, that's true. So mine comes from Jade, who gave it 5 stars, which is for me, a little excessive. And she says, "I like movies where the only man dies a few minutes in."
Yeah.
That's it. That's the review.
Mm-hmm.
So this obviously passes the Bechdel test with flying colors. Nary a man is mentioned in this film, which is refreshing and relieving. And then the Duvernay test. So I don't know. I mean, Juno she is not white. So, and she does have her own set of, like characteristics and her own goals and her, like, she's a fully fledged character, even if she is a terrible person. So I would say that in that degree, it passes. I don't necessarily like that the only like non-white, non-blonde woman in this movie is the villain.
Okay, and Holly wasn't blonde, but okay.
But you know what I mean, like the only like evil sort of like temptress type
was the only non-white person.
Yeah. So I guess that it's a little, it's a little nuanced, the DuVernay test results. I mean, like they kind of always are, right? Like, but this time, I mean, yes, we have a fully fledged character, but she's kind of garbage. She's kind of trash. This Idiot's Guide to Gore, it is a 5 out of 5. There's a lot of blood in this movie. It's not like French extremist levels of blood, but it's a lot of blood. And the leg scene is just like there's just bone just hanging out of Holly's body, and then they're just like, we're just gonna put that back in, and it doesn't make any sense. So Idiot's Guide to Gore, that doesn't make any sense. 5 out of 5.
Also, talking through a neck hole.
Yeah, talking through a neck hole. Fighting after your throat has been slashed upside down.
Love it.
None of the deaths in this movie make sense. Body count 15.
15, but we are counting crawlers.
Oh, okay. All right.
And 16 if you assume that Sarah died at the end in that cave because she never got out.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, if we're not counting crawlers, then it's Paul, Jessica, Sam, Rebecca, Beth, Juno, and then maybe Sarah. So it would be 7. But on-screen deaths.
On-screen deaths. I found a website that looks them up for me, so I don't have to count during a movie.
Nice. So Idiot's Guide to How Scary It Was. I guess this is subjective. It's always subjective. It always depends on what scares you. So for you, it was a 4 out of 5.
The claustrophobia, literally, like when she was in that tunnel, I was texting you like a crazy person. I was like going to vomit. I could not. It was like that scene in the new Blair Witch Project, which we covered on this podcast, where she's crawling through that tunnel.
That movie has been completely cast out of my brain. I did not like that movie at all, so I don't remember that. The only thing I remember is the dumbass like POV shots at the end of it where they show the Blair Witch a bunch of times, and I was like, fuck that, fuck you.
All right, so everybody else, besides Sarah, it reminded me a lot of the ending of the Blair Witch, the remake, the requel, where she's crawling through the tunnel. It was terrifying.
Yeah, okay. For me, I guess, I don't know. It's hard for me to do this subjectively because, like, I can see how it would be scary for other people, but I don't really, it doesn't. The only thing that bothered me about this movie was when they were, like, crawling through the tunnels.
Fuck other people. How scary was it for you?
Like a 2 out of 5, and it has everything to do with just the fact that they were in caves. I don't think the creatures are that, like, I don't know. I mean, like, the jump scares are startling. I think that, like, the most horrifying part of this movie is just Juno as a person and just, like, human nature and, like, the way that, like, these relationships are conducted, and how easy it is to, like, discard them when you're in the face of danger. But
I guess they were right. It's like Deliverance meets The Thing.
Right.
I mean, it's Alien.
Right. I think that it's a good movie, but it's just, it doesn't. I kept reading these reviews on Letterboxd. It was like, this movie's so scary, and I was like, man, I wish I was scared right now. So I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5.
Okay.
Just for the claustrophobia.
So, what was flawless?
Oh, we gotta get our keys.
Oh, ooh, bitch. Get those keys, baby.
All right, every week on Idiot's Guide to Horror, we like to imagine that we have been given the keys to remake or reboot the film that we are discussing, at which point we tell you what we would keep because we think it is flawless and what we would throw out the second we got the chance because we think it is trash. So this week, Chris, keys and peach rings in hand, what would you keep? What would you think is flawless?
Okay. I would keep the claustrophobia. Loved it.
Mhm.
Unsettling. Made me want to leave my house and go lay outside. Juno. Juno is the perfect villain. She's terrible. I hate her. I loved everything about her. If the claustrophobia wasn't good enough, well, here now there's monsters. This movie made me feel all the emotions, like on a range. Like I felt happy when Sarah escaped. I felt sad when she had to bash in Beth's head. I felt sad when her daughter died. I felt sad. I felt sad most of this movie actually.
Yeah.
And then I was also like scared and claustrophobic. I like how at the end of the movie, the light switches while Sarah falls down before she leaves, letting us know that this isn't really happening. You know,
Right.
like she has. It was just like a good subtle light transition from cave light, like with the fire, to sunlight.
Right.
I liked it. What about you? What you like?
I also agree that like as far as like the actual elements of it that like scared me, which is like the cave itself. And Juno, like this entire setup of like Juno, because like a lot of times in female friendships, there is somebody who like fancies themselves the ringleader. And like, well, at least in this point in time, I feel like in the early 2000s, no one was talking about internalized misogyny yet. And nobody was talking about how like, because nobody was talking about internalized misogyny, nobody was talking about like these hierarchical patterns in female friendships. And now like it's a little easier to be in female friendships, because you know a lot of people have like more self-awareness about this kind of stuff. But back then, I think as a teenager, I very much like identified like the character of Juno as somebody that like I knew, that I had dealt with, that like I had felt like betrayed by and misled by. So she is the perfect villain because she's just a human being that's just selfish, just endlessly
Mm-hmm.
selfish, and just wants what she wants. Um, and so I like that the crawlers also become like this sort of manifestation for the tension between these women and for Juno's massive like fuck ups. Like she just kept leading these women down the wrong path in like a bunch of different ways, like metaphorically and like tangibly in this cave. And it leads to like certain death at the hands of like very capable creatures. Um, that's very cool. I also thought it was filmed very like interestingly.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the scene with the pool of blood, especially like it's like an achievement when it's like something's really dark. Like this movie's really dark. There's some parts where it's like actually like you can't see what the fuck is going on, but the somehow like the hues of the red, like the crimson red, like come out when she's in that pool of blood and she like emerges from it. And I thought that was tight as hell. So what was trash for you?
Um, I think just like talking through your neck hole.
Yeah, like the lack of
And
realism in the injuries, right?
like I
Like
buy the monsters. That's fine. I buy Juno snuck them into a cave they didn't know where they were because not one other person had looked up where they were going. Um,
right.
that's all fine. It's just like, how are you gonna talk through your neck hole, Beth? And then Sam just like giving up the ghost.
um yeah, the lack of realism in the injuries, like how long they stayed alive after, you know, these things had happened,
Mm-hmm.
um, was pretty frustrating. I also kind of struggled with some of the acting. Like some of like,
Not Holly,
how did you know immediately that I was talking about Holly?
because she was worse. She was the worst. No offense, Holly. I'm sure you're great wherever you're at.
I haven't seen her in anything else since. I actually
Oh,
haven't
girl.
seen any of these women in anything else since.
I've seen Juno in something else since.
The Descent Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that like some of the acting was a little bit more difficult for me. Also, like I can tell, I don't know, like I feel like this movie.
She was in The Descent Part 2 also, Holly. She's fucking beautiful.
I mean, she's gorgeous. Yeah, they're all really beautiful women, which like is kind of another thing for me. I'm like, oh, like not a one of them is just like a normal human being. Like they're all like these like goddesses, just models that just go spelunking together. Like,
Rebecca's in this movie.
oh, I've seen that. It's God is Great with Audrey Tautou, who I idolized for a minute. But
Oh,
what?
Sam was in Breaking Dawn and Breaking Dawn Part 2 and Grindhouse. And The Witcher.
Oh, Twilight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was like Breaking Dawn. I couldn't place it. But anyway, yeah.
Juno was in Moulin Rouge.
All right,
And
so they've all
Sarah
been
was in Star Wars.
So they've all been in things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Barely.
Well, all right. What do you rate it?
I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I really liked this movie. I would watch it again right now if I was gonna, felt like it. I don't, but like I could, and I would enjoy it again. What about you?
I think it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I think it's a really solid movie. Like it's a really solid horror movie. I think that like some of it, like I said, is like just a little outdated. Like the fact that, like I said, like all of these women are just like models that go spelunking and whitewater rafting together. Is just like it's a little frustrating and a little upsetting. Like I think that we've moved past that.
Did it remind you of Jenna Malone being eaten alive by vines, or is that just me?
It did not, but I see what you're saying.
I think it like the same time frame they came out.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely the same time frame. This was definitely a part of that like wave of early 2000s horror movies that were like as gross as possible because it was during the Iraq War. Like people were people were starved for something that would
Did you see what George Bush said the other day?
Oh, did I ever? Let's call that a Freudian slip. Just like he did like his classic. It was like I was like transported in a time machine back to like 2003 because he did his classic, like he was like shrugging and going oops, and I was like oh god. Anyway, but yeah, this was part of that wave of movies. It was just like helping people process like the violence that we were seeing and dealing with. And I think it's one of the standouts from that time. Like,
I couldn't think of another one.
I mean, Hostel.
Hostel.
Yeah. Borderlands.
Oh, do you know that Tobin Bell said this was one of his favorite horror movies?
Really? Yeah, that makes sense. I think that I think that this is one of a lot of people's favorite horror movies. It's pretty like it's just solid, and it just like as far as like metaphors go, it doesn't beat you over the head with the point, but you still get it. I think like if it were to be remade, I would want it to be written and directed by a woman, because I feel like there are just like missteps in this process that like could be.
Stacey, get Greta Gerwig on the line.
Greta Gerwig is busy making the Barbie movie. Did you see that Margot Robbie shut down her Letterboxd account because it was found by fans? But like she had like she wasn't like her name on there was like Maggie Ackerley or something, but she wasn't exactly being very subtle. One of her lists was just called "Watch for Barbie."
Margot.
Oh, it's so funny. Anyway, So, Idiot's Guide to Non-Horror. This week, Chris, you're really going to be carrying this segment because I haven't done much watching of anything.
You watched Scanner Darkly.
I did
you
watch
loved
Scanner
it.
Darkly. I liked it.
Did you read the book?
I did. And I watched A Scanner Darkly when I was a teenager when it first came out, and I really liked it then. So I assumed I was going to still really like it. And
Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder's great. Robert Downey Jr. and Rory Cochrane are both fantastic in that movie.
Yes.
Keanu Reeves was fine.
Solid. Nope, solid. Solid.
But there was just like some stuff about it that I don't know. The rotoscoping felt kind of gimmicky, and I was like, show me the movie without rotoscoping, you coward. Like,
and how would they do the bugs?
I mean, we watch horror movies all the time.
You got me. You got me.
We could find a way. So like the rotoscoping just kind of felt like gimmicky to me, and I was like kind of put off by it because I could see in the background that these sets looked like really like rich and full and like very interesting, but you couldn't really see them, and I couldn't really see the nuances of everybody's performances because of the rotoscoping. So that was bothering me a little bit. Also, it felt really Richard Linklater-y, like especially like the diner scene where Robert Downey Jr. and Rory Cochrane are just like talking for like 10 minutes, and like Robert Downey Jr. is like sexualizing the waitress. I just I don't know. I think like at the point that I watched that movie for the first time, the only other Richard Linklater movie I had seen was School of Rock. So I didn't know about like Slacker and like, you know, his brand, you know, and it felt like very much stamped with his brand in a way that I hadn't noticed before. And I was like, but do I like that? I don't know. I might not be a fan of Richard Linklater.
That's the Idiot's Guide to I don't know. I probably don't recommend this movie. For non-horror, I don't know if I've already recommended Only Murders in the Building. If I have, please disregard this. If I have not, watch Only Murders in the Building. It stars everyone's favorite people: Selena Gomez, Martin Short, the other one, Steve Martin.
Steve Martin, yeah. I think I might have recommended it a while ago, but I don't remember. It's fine. We can recommend it again because I think that the new season's going to come out at some point here pretty soon.
Yeah, she just hosted SNL last week.
Right. It is a really good show. It starts off kind of I wouldn't say slow, but like I was like, am I going to keep with this? Because it seemed a little.
If you liked Clue, the movie, give it a try.
Also, just if you like Steve Martin and Martin Short, because I love, like, I guess, you know, that's what I recommend. I recommend Steve Martin and Martin Short's comedy special that was on Netflix. I can't remember what it was called, but it was from a few years ago, and it's fantastic. And I just love them as a team. So that's good. Also, what else do you recommend? Because it looks like there's a few things.
Camila Cabello's new album, Familia. I don't know if it's new. It came out this year. It's great. I pre-ordered it on vinyl yesterday, so we'll have that by July 15th. And then also, Todd and the Book of Pure Evil is now streaming on Amazon Prime. So if you have not seen Todd and the Book of Pure Evil before, I need you to go watch it. If you're a fan of Canadian TV shows, if you liked Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, you just watch this. It is so stupid. It is so dumb. It stars people you don't know and Jason Mewes. So, putting it out there. It's like a horror comedy TV show. There's 2 seasons. Episodes are 30 minutes long. It's digestible and it's funny.
That's while we're out here recommending things that are horror. I did see Men yesterday, and I don't know if I necessarily recommend it, but I want everybody to watch it so that I can discuss it with every single person on the planet to try and process how I felt about it. So please, I wanted to walk. There was like one other person in the theater, and I wanted to walk up to them and be like, "Let's discuss."
Coffee?
Yes.
Coffee?
Which also, I guess I recommend going to the movies, because I feel like every time I go to the movies now, there is nobody there, and that concerns me. So please go to the
Yeah,
fucking
and
movies.
you went like prime time
Yeah, yeah, and like this
on a
happens like
Friday.
this is every time I've gone to the movies recently, and not just at like the theater that I work at, but like just for like movies. And I usually go when when a movie has just come out, and
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like nobody's going to see things. And I don't mean to sound like Martin Scorsese, but like I love Marvel movies. Just please also make time for things that aren't Marvel movies. Like please,
Like
please,
anything Martin Scorsese does.
no.
I honestly I still haven't seen Jared Leto's The Vampire or my favorite Olsen twin.
Oh, in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen Doctor Strange yet either. I want to. I do not want to see Morbius.
I need you to watch the third Spider-Man,
Oh,
even
you
though I
watched
haven't
it?
seen it yet. No,
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't watch it yet. Just watch it.
Okay.
But I am going to watch it. I'm going to get a tattoo here in an hour, and I have it downloaded on my phone so I can watch it when I get there.
Okay. All right. All right. Fair enough.
Oh,
Next.
I should take my iPad instead because the screen's bigger.
Well, next week
Yeah.
I will have more recommendations for you. I'll watch
And I'll
more
have less.
non-horror things. But in the meantime, you can send us questions, comments, and recommendations to idiotsguidetohorror@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at idiotsguidetohorror. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/horroridiots. We are on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is just Idiots Guide to Horror. And please, it would be really nice if you rated our podcast on iTunes to help other horror movie fans find us. Tell a friend about us. We're cute.
And yesterday I danced in my bedroom with my cat to Rio by Duran Duran. So.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes I make Elwood dance too. You can call me Al.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, okay, now you know that about us. So I guess until next week, be your own kind of film bro.
And never waste your pain.
All right. Good night, everyone.